business by day, wizard by night. You've found the one place where the contracts end and the magic begins. Grab a potion, restore your mana, and pull up a chair. Welcome to the 8-Bit Tavern.
And welcome in. Welcome to the very first episode of the 8-Bit Tavern. I'm your host, T Magician, and I just want to take a second here to welcome everybody into our podcast today. This is something that I'm very excited about getting started, something I'm very excited about doing, and I hope you guys enjoy it and come back week after week. So let's start off by telling you a little bit about me. So my name is T Magician. I am a small time online streamer and tech fanatic. I have always kind of had a little bit of that side of me that was very much so into technology and gaming. And one day a friend just suggested, hey, why don't you give streaming a try? And it became something that I now do just for fun. It gives me an outlet. It allows me to connect with a few people every day whenever I stream. And it's just very fun. It tends to bring a little bit more of a lighthearted environment into my gaming session. I have a lot of fun while I do it. And we just try to build community with it. And so I had the idea of, well, what better way to continue to branch off of that than to do a weekly podcast, an episodic style podcast every week. And so here we are. The format for the 8-Bit Tavern is very straightforward. We are going to be kind of looking at just a little bit of a recap over the week and things that have happened, whether it be in stream or just things that have happened in life in general or just in the world as a whole. And then we're going to have a main subject or a big focus for the week. And that's kind of going to be the meat and potatoes of what we're here for the week. And then we'll do a little bit of nostalgic check-in where we look back on maybe a piece of tech or a game or a movie or something along those lines that has really shaped where we are today and changed things for better or for worse. In some cases, there are things that have happened that have made things worse. And in many cases, there are things that have been kind of stepping stones to get us to where we are today. And then at the end, we will always close out with telling you how you can find us on other platforms and how you can support this channel going forward and ways that we can continue to grow our community. We do have a Discord set up, as well as I can be followed on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, all of those things there as well. Or just your continued support here with the podcast every week is plenty enough for me. So having kind of laid out what we're looking at, let's take a look at the origin of the 8-Bit Tavern. So the 8-Bit Tavern is kind of a play off of my already established Twitch persona and brand. It kind of has a more nostalgic 8-bit flair to it because that's about the time that I came into the gaming world, was when things like Mario, Duck Hunt, Pitfall, all of those traditional 8-bit style NES games and things were very popular. I still play several of them on a regular basis. I'm a big fan of nostalgic games. And the more magical, wizardy side comes as a play off of my last name, kind of rhymes with the magician theme. And I've always kind of been big into the wizardry and things like that. Never so much a Harry Potter fan growing up, but more so wizards like Merlin and warlocks and things of that nature there. Played lots of role playing games and MMORPGs as a child growing up. And I've always kind of leaned myself to more of the magic as far as the fighting styles and things like that go. So it's just kind of a natural progression for me as we move forward, and kind of tried to create this brand. And then the tavern portion of it is a natural progression. Taverns in days of old were kind of a place where people came together and they could gather, have a drink, have a good time. and kind of just relax, kick off their shoes, and connect with each other. So when I was thinking about a podcast idea, I thought of what better tie in than to bring everything together than to go with a tavern as the theme and the name for said podcast. So that's a little bit about me. I do live a dual life. I do handle business transactions and contract negotiations during the day. And then when I come home, I'm very much kicked back and relaxed. And so you will notice as you look at the Facebook and things of that nature, there's kind of that duality of my life is pretty prominent and portrayed on there because it's very much so true. And so that kind of gets you a good feel for me. I do look to kind of split this podcast up weekly between solo episodes like today and this little bit of origin story, and then also some interview based, where we get either some people from my local area or some folks from the internet community as a whole to kind of chime in, do some question and answer segments, and really get to know each other and grow from there. This is very much about building a community and having return listeners and really just kind of branching out and bringing people together as a whole, much more so than the fractured society that we currently live in, where opinions and things like that tend to really divide people more than bring them together. There are several things with this podcast that we will never touch on. One of those things is politics, and the other is religion. I believe that everybody is open and entitled to believe and feel how they want. I do encourage open discussion and different points of view, but those are just two topics that I feel like in today's climate, as far as a society, those are just two things that it's best to stray away from. And so that's what we will do. Those are just two things that we will not touch on ever at any point in any podcast episode, no matter what the political or religious climate is here in America. It will be something that we just aren't going to go with. There are lots of podcasts that I'm sure you guys can listen to get that feel if that's what you're interested in. This, however, will not be one of them. And like I said, at the beginning of this short episode this week, here to kind of kick us off and get us started, you can find us on Twitch. All of my handles are T Magician 12, whether that be Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Kick. All of those are places you can find us, or you can check us out for our small little merch store at T Magician Games with a Z, GAMEZ.com. We do have a little store on there. Feel free to buy you some nerdy themed merch there to kind of support the channel and help us out, or just drop us a like or follow on any of our other social media platforms as well. I appreciate you guys joining us today for this short kind of introduction episode. I will tell you that next week will also be a solo episode, and we're going to kind of dive into something that's happened here recently and look at this new kind of layout that Sony is coming out with that's kind of got the internet in a rave now, where the DRM licensing on games is going to expire every 30 days if they're not connected to online. We're going to look at how is that going to affect us moving forward from a gaming standpoint, and what other potential outcomes does that have on us as a digital society as a whole, whether it involve gaming or videos or movies or things like that. How are those things going to affect us, and kind of what got us to this point? Why is that something that anyone is considering? And just kind of how does it affect society as a whole moving forward? So feel free to join us next week. Our goal is to have these episodes out and published and available by Thursday of every week, and it will be available on all of your major podcasting platforms. And so, yeah, I appreciate you guys joining us today for our very first episode. This is kind of a short, dirty, and down episode. I promise these episodes will, kind of be going forward. They'll be between, 15 and 30 minutes every week. We'll continue to kind of move through, touch on everything. As we grow and things become more in depth, I'm sure they will get longer. And some weeks we may even put out 1 or 2 episodes to kind of get everybody going if there's a lot going on and things we need to touch on that just simply can't wait for a regular weekly episode. Again, I'm T Magician, and I appreciate you guys joining us today in the 8-Bit Tavern. And we hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time.